Hey guys, Tixius here, just giving you a video of my opinion when it comes to what classes and races you should be playing on your tanks when it comes to Flames of Ambition, the next upcoming DLC. As a lot has changed with the CP system, and I kind of want to just give my thoughts in terms of like where tanks are standing and what races pair best with the tanks. And just kind of give it a general overflow of information, as I do know there's been a little bit of misinformation when it comes to certain aspects of it, but I'm just there to share what I know in terms of the game and help you guys out with whatever it may be. um, First thing is with Dragonknight tanks. I gave them an A+ rating. The pros are, it's easy to learn. It's kind of the beginner's tank, but also has a strong late game capability. It has strong spell resistance with a 3300 passive increase to it. It has a passive increased block mitigation by 10%. Simple but effective toolkit. It leaves a lot of room for flex skills, like if you wanted to run Vigor, for example, when it came to running Powerful Assault, or Stone Fist, and things like that. It does give a strong combination in stamina compositions due to its minor brutality from Earth and Heart skills, giving it an increase of 10% weapon damage to everyone in the group. It does have stamina return on Igneous and Fragmented Shield plus Major Mending, giving 990 per cast of any but Stone Fist from the Earth and Heart skill line. Stone Fist is a nice passive group DPS increase if maintained at 3 stacks. Amount increased varies based on the classes in the group or the rotations involved, as it does damage, increases damage per tick. So like the more Necros, for example, it's going to get more for them than it would for like a Templar, for example. It has a strong chain pull, 28 meter range, so very strong range on that, and it gives major expedition. And it's free if it doesn't pull the enemy, which is also fantastic. It also has a strong burst heal through Green Dragon's Blood, AoE root ability through Talons, AoE interrupt from Inhale, increased healing received when a Draconic ability is active, which gives a 12% increase in healing received, and Draconic abilities kind of include Green Dragon's Blood or the class armor. And AoE Major Breach is also a fantastic thing from their Noxious Breath. The cons. It's not as strong as other options for Magicka-based compositions ever since the Engulfing Flame nerf. They're mainly brought in when it comes to off-tanking or mainly for Stone Fist. Outside of that, unfortunately, they've kind of lost a lot of their glimmer. But they're still fantastic tanks. Mitigation skills and healing skills are expensive. Mitigation skills referring to like Igneous as well as their class armor. Granted, of course, a lot of them, as the next line mentions, are leading towards using balance instead of the class armor, mainly because the ability bonuses are ineffective. The hardened armor only gives you a shield equal to 15% of your max health, when Igneous does 33%, so it doesn't even beat Igneous in that manner. And the other one, the damage over time, is not super effective, and with it only being a 20-second cost, the price doesn't really outweigh it, unfortunately. It relies on burst sustain in high intensity situations, which is why another thing that leads it to using balance more than other classes. But overall, an A+ for me. Races for Dragonknight Dragonknights ranked. Number 1 I have as the Imperial. Well, not number 1. These are all just standard rankings. So for S tier, I have Imperial and Argonian. Imperial is the best overall sustain race, while Argonian is the best potion sustain, and heal sustain, fixing some of the issues with the new Foresight slotted CP, making like Green Dragon's Blood much more affordable, like only like probably like a 1.8 to 2k, potentially even cheaper. Super effective, it's great. A+ is the Nord. For the resistances and the extra bit of ulti gen, on top of having health and stamina and immunity to chilled. Redguard gets an A with its new reworked stamina sustain, but unfortunately the new stamina sustain is a little bit overhyped. It's a little redundant just due to the Earth and Heart passives, mainly just because if you need extra stam, you just, as people will make a joke about, it's just hold block, right click, stomp kind of thing. Mainly just because you get your stamina back from just using your Igneous Shield. It's equivalent to the whole passive of Redguard. It's just hitting that button once. And the lack of a health passive doesn't really help them too much. Breton, it gets a B+, makes mag abilities a little bit cheaper and adds spell resistance. High Elf can give some better passive mag sustain. It's not fantastic though, it just gets a B. C+ from Orc, as it has a melee heal over time, increased running speed, has extra health and stamina. Good for off-tanking with powerful assault setups. If you're also like a DPS setup, like where you swap to a DPS occasionally, Orc would be pretty good. Dark Elf gets a C+, same as the Orc, minus the health and melee heal. Khajiit gets a small amount of all the 3 resources, extra crit healing, and a tiny bonus to recoveries. Wood Elf gets an F, unfortunately, as they just have falling damage reduction and some extra stamina and sprint speed. Not really a whole lot to really gain from them. Next is Templar. Templar gets a B. The pros of Templars, they have the best damage shield like in the game in terms of any class shielding. Radiant Ward is insane. It's like hitting barrier as a skill. It's fantastic. They have the highest base resistances in the game in terms of their toolkit, making it so they can be a little more flexible with their gear a little more comfortably than others. Not comfortably, a little more comfortable than others. Passive increased block mitigation via Sacred Grounds. Passive minor protection from Adric Spear abilities, 5% damage mitigation. They have an AoE major maim from their Nova ultimate. The class has a strong heal over time and slow to proc minor sorcery, Living Dark. Reduce stamina, magicka, and ultimate cost by 5%. Receives minor mending buff from class armor, so when they also have their, not the class armor, referring to their rune, which also gives them stamina return, which we'll go over in a little bit. They have 20% increased resurrection speed, a passive AoE group heal and self-purge, which can be pretty handy. And the stamina return from the class armor is equivalent to 480 stamina recovery through block. I think it's actually the highest through the block of any class. The cons. And unfortunately, Templar hasn't really recovered from these ones yet. They have no strong class burst heal. Granted, they have the infamous Breath of Life and as well as the AoE heal, but unfortunately neither of them really provide enough to even come close to that of like Green Dragon's Blood, for example, or even the Sorcerer heal, which we'll get into later. They have no AoE root. They have AoE slows based off Living Dark, but they don't have any actual AoE root. Most groups run Templars already, making its minor sorcery buff not as desirable in optimized comps, and it has no class chain pull. Races that I've ranked for these Templar tanks, number 1 being Argonian, as you can use the Foresight passive and potions as a burst heal with the infused potion cooldown reduction. Can make it super good in that aspect for getting a lot of healing abilities out without really costing you anything. Next is A+ for Imperial. I would give A to Redguard, as it can make sustain viable to do a hybrid DPS tank playstyle. Doing it, like kind of leaning into the Templar roots a bit, you definitely could get something out of that. Makes me a little curious to try that myself, if I'm to be honest. B+ to Nord, mainly because Nord's just a great tank, but with how high Templar's resistances can get on their own, their resistance bonus isn't as desired, and that kind of falls into the same reason why Bren gets B+ as well. High Elf just gets a B, as it can just help with passive max sustain, or it gets C+, Dark Elf C+, Khajiit C, and Wood Elf F, unfortunately. Now, for Necromancer tank. They get an S tier. They are one of the best. They're in the top 2. Even arguably number 1 in my opinion. It's a tight race. Depends on what content you're doing. So the pros of Necromancer tank. They have the highest ultimate generation rate in the game. They have twice that of any other tank. The Resurrection Ultimate revives 3 people, as well as giving 5k stamina and magicka per person that accepts your res. You have the Colossus Ultimate, which gives a 10% increased damage done to targets in the AoE for 15 seconds if all 3 hits hit. You have the Goliath Ultimate, giving you 30k HP for 20 seconds. The class armor provides you with the passive chain pull every 3 seconds. And a 15% dot mitigation. It generates a corpse after 12 seconds if reused or expires. It has AoE Root and Minor Maim through Ghostly Embrace. It has AoE Stun plus Minor Protection plus AoE Minor Vulnerability synergy through Bone Totem. It has Necrotic Potency to gain 6 ultimate per corpse consumed and a strong heal over time. They have AoE Major Breach plus a synergy through Boneyard. They have extremely strong Burst Heal, which adds a heal over time on top of the burst via their Hungry Scythe. They have extremely cheap class purge that gives resources. It gives you 500 magic and stamina per effect purged, and it only costs like 1.9k health. It's extremely cheap and effective. They have AoE Burst Heal plus heal over time if all the corpses are consumed through Avid Death. Well, it's Avid Among Death or something like that. I can't remember its name right now. Don't use it too often, but it does exist. Spirit Guardian taking 10% of the damage you receive and giving you a heal over time that can hit you or a group member that are low, plus increased recoveries. It gives you 200 magicka and stamina recovery to have them active. Very good. One thing that unfortunately some tanking channels unfortunately forget is that Mortal Coil can give Necromancer stamina through block on top of a strong heal over time, equivalent to 197 stamina recovery. Just a little shy from what the Red Guard passive gives, but nothing that can't be worked. You can see some of my prior videos to see that Mortal Coil is more than enough. They're low HP makes your healing abilities have a 20% higher chance of crit rate, 20% higher crit rate for reliable burst healing if you have one of your healing skill line abilities on. The same skill line that Mortal Coil and the Resurrection Ultimate come on from, so just having one of those on each of your bars will cover you entirely. You can fill 1/2 of the required Colossus drops to get 100% uptime. Most groups you need 4 Necromancers to get 100%, but with a skilled Necromancer tank, you only need 3. And the Necromancer tank will take every other ultimate drop, essentially, they'll be able to do. It's crazy good how fast they can get it. Cons. The class chain pull is slow. It can only happen once every 3 seconds, and it's the ranged enemies, which is unfortunate. Non-melee burst heals aren't quite as strong. The Scythe is significantly stronger than Resistant Flesh, but requires a target hit. It's not really a major issue, as most cases you will have a target to hit. Resilient Flesh I've only ever had to rely on in a couple of instances. Don't really have to ever lean on it more than I do my Scythe, though, thankfully. My heal over times can kind of make up for it. No class damage shield, that is unfortunate, but thankfully the sword on board does have one built in, as well as Undaunted. No class resistance passives, nothing to give you spell or physical resistance, and they have no class block mitigation. However, the Ghost more than makes up for this, but still it's a thing to consider. Races for Necromancer Tank Ranked, Nord is the best at S tier. It fixes the resistance passive missing, as well as adds to the crazy ulti generates the Necromancer tank already has. Argonian gets an A+, they are fantastic for potion sustain, and Imperial gets an A+ as well for overall sustain. Redguard gets a B+, the sustain is nice, but Mortal Coil covers most of our needs, and we'd be losing out on a health and additional bonuses outside of just better stam sustain. We don't really need it, so we could lean more into Nord for that. Breton gets a B+, as it does make our magicka abilities better, well, cheaper, and adds a bit of spell resistance, which does get doubled if we have a status effect on us. Only magical status effects I should add. Just something to consider. It's not horrible, but it does help. High Elf can give us some passive max sustain. Not really that great, though. Kind of follows the same as others, where Orc gets C+, Dark Elf gets C+, Kishi gets C, and Wood Elf gets F. Warden also gets an S rank. Warden has the best chain pull in the game through Frozen Device. It has a large skill gap, mind you, but it is by far the best chain pull in the game. And it's the best things about it, if people are curious to know why I say that, it can be preemptively placed, making it the fastest grouping chain pull, saving more time than any other class can add in DPS. It has major main built into it, and due to the fact that it works as not a hard CC, it makes it so that way if you run the stun version of your burst heal, you can immediately pull them in, root them, stun them, and then essentially chain lock them in a CC to where they can't run away from you. It's insanely broken, it's very powerful, and Warden Tank has by far the best crowd control in the game. They have AoE Major Resolve for the group, giving them 9% group damage mitigation to both physical and spell damage. Minor Vulnerability debuff skill through Swarm. They have Major Expedition through Wings, as well as minor evasion coming from it. They have a passive recovery boost of 12% when having an animal companion ability slotted. They have strong stamina sustain through block, plus major sorcery / brutality, equivalent to 399.36 stamina recovery through block, just through bull netch. They have high passive DPS through gripping shards, vulnerability debuff, and their class burst heal and blockade. With those alone, in AoE fights, you can easily get to like 20k DPS just from having those down. They have the best AoE rooting power through chill debuffs, as mentioned, and gripping shards. AoE stunning through heals. Well, the heal depending on the morph, and the other morph healing another nearby ally for a burst heal. They have the best projectile shield. Can block an entire Nocturnal's favor from Zamaja with 0 damage touching the player's health. You can literally drop block, let the Nocturnal's ball fly at you. As long as you have the 3 shields up, you're going to be fine. They have minor toughness, and if used in a group heal, that's not Blood Altar, unfortunately, since they nerfed that. Giving it to the group, 10% increased HP. Never something to laugh about. That's 10% increased survivability by default. It's fantastic. It has a strong class group major protection through Sleet Storm. They have strong class ultimate AoE heal through trees. It's fantastic. It's a ton of ultimate back if it's used at the right time. It's awesome. They also have strong burst heal plus heal over time from Polar Wind. They have AoE Major Breach through Shulk. They also have a class resistance passive. The cons. The class resistance passive is unfortunately weak. Only 500 spell and physical resistance per Winter's Embrace skill. They have mediocre class ulti gen. It's not the greatest. It's not strong suit as is Necromancers. The minor toughness can no longer be procced by Blood Altar, which is unfortunately a major loss. And the limited bar space. Due to how many passives they have and what it kind of demands off of you, it kind of limits what you are able to actually run in terms of like additional gear. It hurts, unfortunately, but it can be better and it can be worse. It's nothing really too much to stress about. But for them, because of that first con, Nord is my S for them. The other ones are great, but I kind of lean onto that Nord for the S tier in terms of the fixing the resistance issue as well as fixing some of the ulti gen issues. They have fantastic sustain, but Argonian does help improve it, giving them an A+ through their potions. I also give Imperial an A+ for best overall sustain. I give Red Guards a B+ to stamina sustain, as it is nice to have it, but our Bullnetch does give us a ton of stamina recovery. Which I mean never hurts them more. You never know what you're doing. It could help out. Breton makes a mag abilities a little bit cheaper and adds spell resistance, kind of helping out, similar to kind of how the Nord does. But the mag cost isn't as big of an issue, so that's kind of why it's there. Same thing, High Elf we give a B, Orc we give a C+, Dark Elf we give C+, Khajiit we give C, and Wood Elf we give F. Nightblade gets a C+. And I want to say that even if it gets a C+, it doesn't mean it's bad. Just kind of focus in on that. It's very playable. It's just, in terms of how I rank it, I just don't see it as good as the other tanks right now, and I think that it needs some adjustments to bring it back to where it was. Like for example, the class heal does provide minor protection and their major resolve buff at the same time, which is pretty good. AoE minor vulnerability through their ambush, the Lotus Fan morph. They have AoE fear from their actual fear ability. They have AoE burst heal ultimate, which is great because it also does give major vitality. So it makes healing out of certain mechanics very powerful and effective. The next thing is they have an AoE major expedition plus heal over time through refreshing path. They have AoE minor mayhem from their shade. Their summon shade does an AoE minor mayhem, which helps out a ton. Any critical damage they provide, that they deal, provides minor savagery to a group, making them pretty heavy in stam comps to be used, since Nightblade, Stamina Nightblade hasn't had the greatest love as of late, unfortunately. They have a unique AoE enemy weapon and spell debuff through power extraction. And they generate 20 ultimate every potion they use, leading them to the second highest potential ulti generation. The cons. They have no class resistance passives. They have no class root ability. One pro I want to throw out there real quick is they do have major evasion in their toolkit, which does give them minor resolve as well, which is pretty great. But unfortunately, these other cons do weigh it out quite a bit. Too many of its pros are spread out to too many abilities, leading to not enough bar space to maximize their toolkit. No class burst heal on a health. Their health hot. Well, health percent hot. That's how their current one functions. I think it's 3% of their max health that heals them per second. It's good, but there was a time period where it was like 33%. It was crazy strong. So like it needs to get a bit more love on their heal over time, or it needs to get a different functionality, in my opinion, or even just give them another burst heal. They used to have one that they could use on themselves, which was very good. They're not strong in Magicka compositions in terms of what they can bring to the team. As I had mentioned prior, they unfortunately have lost a bit of their toolkit, and due to the fact that mag dominant compositions are out there, Nightblade doesn't get as much love. If you were in a more heavy stam like composition, this tank could even be a B+ to your guys' composition in terms of efficiency. And they have no class chain pull, unfortunately. But for Nightblade, I actually think the best race for them is Argonian. I think if you're going to play a Nightblade tank, you should go Argonian. And the reason I say that is because it adds to the potion sustain aspect of Nightblade. Due to potions giving you ultimate generation, you can use infused potion cooldown glyphs to really capitalize on the fact you're using the potions as your burst heal on top of it, since you could use it every 21 seconds. I definitely think that's the route I would take with it, and I would highly consider doing that as if I was to ever play the Nightblade tank again. The next is A+ to Nord, fixing the resistance passive issue, as well as adding some ultimate generation. Imperial has the best overall sustain, so they get an A+. Leeching Strikes does cover the Redguard passive, but you could even technically run Redguard and run something else there, but you wouldn't get as good of sustain as you do with Argonian, unfortunately. Breton gets a B+, High Elf gets a B, Orc gets a C+, Dark Elf gets a C+, Khajiit gets a C, and Wood Elf gets an F. Sorcerer tank. I want to make sure I didn't skip past one. Nope, Sorcerer tank. Sorcerer tank gets a B+. The pros of it is as a unique debuff that also heals you. It provides 1k physical and spell pen, and it heals you for 10% of your maximum HP as a self-heal. Absolutely fantastic. For tanks, it can proc you for like 5k, just casting this and smacking your target with it every so often. It has the highest block mitigation in the game due to Bound Aegis, which also gives you minor resolve. Bound Aegis, when you proc it, gives you 3 seconds of a 40% increase to your block mitigation. Absolutely insane. It has a strong class root that also gives you major vitality. It has the ability to prepare sustain with Dark Deal to get block sustain. It's equivalent to 240 stamina recovery plus burst sustain and a self heal. The only issue with that is what we'll get into when we get to the cons. The strongest base value burst heal in the game is what they possess, from the Clan Fear, which has a base of 35% of your maximum HP, as it's based on the value before as its base value, as it doesn't consider crits or passives in that amount. The reason why I say it's the strongest is because if you think about Green Dragon's Blood, heals you for 33% of your missing HP, meaning if you're at 0, it would heal you for 33% of your maximum HP at base. Glanfear heals you for 35%, no matter how low you are. Super good. They provide Minor Prophecy whenever using a dark magic skills to the whole team, which includes their unique debuff as well as Dark Deal and their class route. Their class armor also gives you brief bursts of Major Expedition and an AoE DOT, which is pretty handy. They have 15% cheaper ultimates. Ball of Lightning can absorb projectiles, which is pretty handy. But we get into the cons. Cons are no class resistance passives again. The burst heal and passive stat gain required 2 skill slots to obtain it. Limited skill slots due to the pet heal being the best one to have on and filling those 2 spots. They have no class chain pull. Dark Deal Stam Sustain requires block to be dropped in order to use it. And the other thing that is unfortunate with Ball of Lightning is it doesn't help you evade certain mechanics, like for example Nocturnal's Favor ignores Ball of Lightning and strikes you still. So it kind of hurts that in there. And I accidentally left a typo, and I'm gonna just quickly fix that, because this is not what that is. So, the best I love how I just totally threw it off there. The best races for Sorcerer Tank is Nord, fixes the resistance issue and adds some ult gen. Argonian is also S tier for them, giving them the best potion sustain, and Imperial gets an S for best overall sustain. Imperial gets an A plus as due to the con with Dark Deal, it can help cover up some of the issues with Dark Deal. Breton gets B plus, High Elf B, Orc C plus, Dark Elf C plus, Khajiit C, and Wood Elf F. Now, let's get into discussing the best armor, enchantments, and traits for your gear. Here's my opinion on this. As you can see, for head, I recommend Sturdy with the Prismatic, the weight being heavy. Shoulder, same thing, except the enchantment is health instead. For chest, I recommend the same as heavy with a Prismatic glyph. Gloves, I also recommend being heavy with Sturdy and health. Due to us losing the Shadow Ward passive, all Sturdy is our best option. With belts, at least in my opinion I should say, with belts I choose Sturdy with health, and you can do this as heavy or medium. Medium does offer 3% block mitigation, so having one piece medium could be interesting to do. Pants, I recommend heavy with a Prismatic. Boots, I recommend Sturdy with health, of course heavy. And shields, weight is shield, Sturdy with a Prismatic. For your one-handed weapon, doesn't really matter. Defending or decisive, depending on where your resistance is at, would determine that. The enchantment doesn't matter. The one-hand enchantments are too weak to really be super viable. You could arguably do it charged with the new passives, but it really wouldn't be something that I would be stressing about, is what I'm trying to say. Especially with how high everyone else's proc rates of those will be. Don't stress this. You can even use the poison there if you wanted. And for your back bar, we're always going to be running the infused with a crusher enchantment. Always is our best option. So now, what we'll do is we will get into the CP. This is my CP progression chart for Flames of Ambition. I'm not showing the craft, because craft doesn't really have a lot of combat efficiencies, and I'm sure you guys will find which ones you enjoy the most from there, and you'll go with those ones. That's totally fine. These are the branches down to what I feel is where it loses what I would be focusing on. From CP 10, the starting CP, to CP 150, I would make sure to aim for the Boundless Vitality CP. It's a slotted CP, just make sure to throw that in. For the next amount of CP, 150 to 300, I would work on Ironclad as your next slotted. And from 300 to 450, I would work on Rejuvenation as your next slotted, as it gives you 150 of each of the recoveries. Very handy. From 450 to 600, I would put 40 points into Tireless Guardian and 10 into Fortification, in that order. The next is 600 to 750, which I would put 35 into Fortification to max it out, 8 into Hasty, and 7 into Hero's Vigor. The next mark at 750 to 900, I would put 33 into Hero's Vigor, 17 into Tumbling. At the next mark, being 900 to 1050, and you can put these in as you're leveling up. This is just my recommendation, that's why I say left to right on these. The primary focus is getting 33 into Hero's Vigor to cap it out, and put 17 into Tumbling. From 1050 to 1200, I'd put 18, oh my gosh, my apologies. From 900 to 1050, I'd put 28 into Tumbling and 22 into Defiance. I apologize if I mixed that up inside the audio. My apologies. From 1050 to 1200, I'd put 18 into Defiance, 15 into Nimble Protector, and 17 into Expert Evasion, which is going to be our final slottable once we max it out. From 1200 to 1350, I would put 33 points into Expert Evasion and 17 into Savage Defense. From 1350 to 1500, I'm going to put 28 into Savage Defense and 22 into Sprinter. From 1500 to 1650, I'm going to put 18 points into Sprinter, then 24 into Hasty, then 8 to Mystic Tenacity. From 1650 to 1800, I'm going to put the last 2 points that I'd want into Mystic Tenacity for now, and 10 points into Survival Instincts, 25 into Tempered Soul, and 13 into Bashing Brutality. From 1800 to 1950, I'm going to put 27 points into Bashing Brutality to max it out, and 23 of the points into Tempered Soul. From 1950 to 2100, I'm going to put 27 points into Tempered Soul, and 23 to Mystic Tenacity. From 2100 to 2250, I'm going to put 17 Mystic Tenacity in, and 33 Tempered Soul. From 2250 to 2400, I'm going to put the last 17 points of Tempered Soul in, and 33 to Spirit Mastery. And the final amount that I would focus in allocating is from 2400 to 2451, and that's 17 points into Spirit Mastery. Using the final 400, I would definitely recommend getting the maxed out version of Strategic Reserve, Slippery, Survival Instincts, Bastion, and Arcane Alacrity. Alacrity, probably. I'm not sure. But use the rest however you like. That's just what I recommend for the fitness. For Warfare, this is where it's going to be very different from what other sites may recommend. I'm recommending 40 into Tireless Discipline. Stamina is our most important stat to not run out of. And 10 into Eldritch Insight for CP 10 to 150. From CP 150 to 300, I'm going to put 30 Eldritch Insight, 10 Quick Recovery, and 10 to Preparations. Quick Recovery is something we're just going to worry about maxing out later. It doesn't add enough to be too valuable early on. From CP 300 to 450, I'm going to put the final 30 points of Preparation in, and 20 points to Elemental Aegis. From CP 450 to 600, I'm going to do 20 points of Elemental Aegis and 30 points of Hardy. From CP 600 to CP 750, I'm going to do 10 points of Hardy to cap it out, and 40 points into Duelist Rebuff. And that's our final our first slotted CP. From 750 to 900, I'm going to put 10 points into Duelist Rebuff to max it out, and 40 points into Enduring Resolve, which is our second slottable. From CP 900 to 1050, I'm going to put 10 points into Enduring Resolve to cap it out, and 4 points into Unassailable, which is another slotted CP, our third. I would say it's one of our 2 flex CPs if you want to use something different. From CP 1050 to 1200, I'm going to put 10 into Unassailable and 40 into Bulwark, which is our final slotted for now. From 1200 to 1350, I'm going to put the last 10 points into Bulwark and slot it, 10 into Piercing, and 30 into Flawless Ritual. From 1350 to 1500, I'm going to put 10 into Flawless Ritual to cap it out, and 40 into Battle Mastery. From 1500 to 1650, I'm going to put 30 into War Mage and 20 into Precision. From 1650 to 1800, I'm going to put 20 into Precision and 30 into Blessed. From 1800 to 1950, I'm going to put 30 into Quick Recovery and 20 into Mighty. From 1950 to 2100, I recommend putting 10 into Mighty to cap it out, 30 into Piercing, and 10 into Blessed to cap out Blessed. From 2100 to 2250, I recommend putting in 10 Swift Renewal and 40 to Foresight. And then from 2250 to 2280, I recommend putting the last 10 into Foresight from that you run there, and use the remaining CP however you choose. That is how I would go about handling that allocation. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. It was very exciting to sit down and read through and calculate how I would go through the next stages of my progression when it comes to Flames of Ambition as a tank, and I hope that my information that I'm sharing and my thoughts can help you guys out as well. I'm more than happy to help down and sit with you guys and talk about anything you guys need help with in terms of the game, or even more. You can always hear me or find me out. If you ever want to talk, you guys are more than welcome to message me. I love chatting with you guys in the comment section. If you guys like the video, please leave a like, share the content to help people out. I hope to help anyone that may need it. I would love to help out anyone that I can. It's my main goal with the channel. I love doing it for you guys. It makes me feel great to hear the positive feedback. It means a lot. Anyway, I gotta let you guys go. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. And one thing I guess I can ask as a favor, if you guys ever want to, just go ahead and check out Fox Run Gaming on Twitch. He is a friend of mine who does a lot of Twitch content and is wanting to make it big to eventually join the ESO stream team. I'd appreciate if you guys went over there and gave him a follow. It means a lot, and I'm sure he would enjoy that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hope you guys enjoy.